Your family had one of the few remaining, family NASCAR operations in K Automotive before it ended up shutting down. And in reading about you in preparation for the interview, you were talking about how, during the really tough times with K Automotive, you'd show up at the hotel and the credit card wouldn't work.
Yeah, the gas station.
You would, spend time working in the family shop during the Michigan winters with the heat turned off to save money, knowing at the end of the month you were going to be unable to pay the employees that worked for you. Of all of that, what of those struggles stands out the most?
When the week came, which it had to eventually, where everything was sold off, at that moment you're dismantling, that in which you've worked for, which everyone has worked for in your family. It's being dismantled. Much like seeing someone's pet project that they've worked on their whole life be taken apart. It's just a sharp pain where you feel like you let everybody down because you couldn't save it. It wasn't meant to be, and I've moved on since then, but if there's a moment that sticks with me, it's that moment, and just picturing everything being moved out the building and out the door, and picturing the pictures being taken off the wall, things of that nature.
Now, I read, and you said this, which seems grossly inaccurate and unfair to put that burden on yourself, but you said, quote, "To think I was part of bankrupting my family to try to pursue your own dream is a moment where you feel so selfish and incredibly low as a human being that you just don't even know how you're ever going to recover from that." Obviously, again, unfair and seemingly inaccurate to put that on yourself, but why did you feel like at the time that you shared in the blame for what went wrong?
Because I called for the ball. I accepted the responsibility. It was my job to find a way to be successful, and I didn't find it. And that puts the burden on me. That was my missed shot, my fourth quarter game-winning shot, and missed it. Unfortunately, it was a half-court shot, but I still had the ball.
How long does it take to recover from something like that?
Well, I don't think there's an answer to that. I think it takes till you have a moment where you've achieved success. It takes that moment where you eventually hit the fourth quarter shot. And that moment makes you feel like the one that you missed was nothing but a training exercise.
What do you think you learned from having gone through that?
Well, through adversity comes strength. For me, I don't know if it's necessarily what you learn. I think that's too basic. It's more than what you learn. It's about how it shapes you. And you'd say that's part of learning, but it's really not. There's always a learning process. Every day I'm learning, every day. But there's also a molding and a shaping process as well of who you are, whether it's in the eyes of yourselves or in the eyes of others. For me, through that process, to answer exactly what I learned was really not that much.
Really?
No. Most everything you learn is based off of failure, not success. That wasn't a learning experience. I mean, it'd be like watching your dog get ran over by a car. It's not necessarily a learning experience. It's an experience where you feel terrible, but I mean, sometimes your dog just gets ran over a car and there's nothing you can do about it, and you start to maybe look at the world a little differently. But I don't think it necessarily teaches you anything.
Your mom said, quote, "He pulled us out of bankruptcy all by himself. He gave us every penny he had to pay our bills. Otherwise, we would have probably lost our home. What did it feel like for you to, be in a position to be able to do that?
It was temporary relief. But every time I felt like I got out of one hole, and the one with my family was certainly the hardest, it seemed like the next hole came up. It was the next challenge of somebody saying I wasn't great enough, not good enough to be here to do this. And the easiest way I can explain is at that same time frame where I was, starting to be able to bail out my family financially. I was also at the point where the things were falling apart from, being able to continue my role at Hendrick Motorsports. So I just transitioned from one challenge to the next. So there was a feeling of temporary relief, but not really satisfaction, if that makes any sense.
Did you ever wonder when you were going to see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel at that point?
Sometimes, but part of me lives for that challenge. So it's part of what drives me to be who I am.